Welcome to Divine Downloads with me, your host, Cassandra. This is the podcast formerly known as Practical Magic Musings for those of you who are joining us after a few weeks. If you want more updates on why that switch over, head to our last podcast episode, which was all about trading magic for miracles. I think you'll enjoy that story, and it will explain the new shift. This podcast was really inspired by some events recently this week in my life, completely unplanned. And it's all about decisions. How do we know when we're making a quote unquote tough decision, which is different for all of us? A tough decision could be, do I go to this event tonight or do I not go to this event tonight? A tough decision could be, do I invest in this program or do I not invest in this program? A tough decision could be, do I go on that trip or do I not go on that trip? We all have tough decisions in our lives. And I've been faced, literally, it's been crazy the past 2 weeks. I feel like I've been getting like a final exam in tough decision making. So many opportunities have come up for me to really have to sit with myself and see what is the best way to make this decision. And so today, not that there was like much of a decision to make around this, but my car broke down. I had literally, the irony of this is that yesterday I brought my car in for its routine maintenance. So there was a couple recalls on things and just to have them check and make sure everything was like working okay. And everything checked out fine. They switched the recall stuff that they needed to do. Everything was fine. I go to drive to this event that I was giving a meditation at in LA today, and my car literally doesn't start when I get to the event. So it started this morning. I get to the event, I park it for valet to take it, and it won't start up again for them to move the car. So now the car is blocking all the other cars in the lot. And it was just this big, complete disaster because they were trying to tow it. And I was like, no, give me a second. Let me try to, I have a Prius. So if you guys have a Prius or any kind of electric car, it's a little bit different how you start them. It's not like a turnkey thing. It's more of like a button kind of situation. And sometimes if the key is not in the car or something's not locked or whatever, all these like little doodads can stop the car from activating because it's all on a different system. Anywho, could not get this car to start. It became this whole big thing. Finally got this angel. Angel jumps me. We can't shut the car off again. He's like, just go now. You have to go take it to a dealership and get it fixed. So anyway, that all drama was kind of going on today. And it was just, when you have those kind of moments, they just shake you up, right? They shake you up. And I was in the midst of also contemplating another big decision. I've had a lot of big decisions recently that are really around where do I want to use my time and my energy, and then where do I want to use my financial resources. And it's been showing up to each individual decision differently, and really asking my highest self what is the best method of going. And today what I wanted to share with you, what came through when I was praying. So I literally dropped the car off. I dropped the car off at the Toyota dealership. They're as baffled as I am because we literally just ran every test on it yesterday and it was fine. We have no idea how this happens. And I'm like, okay, well, it has to be cosmic, right? Because it's here and it's not working and we need to, So I walk across the street to a Starbucks to literally get a tea because I'm like, I'm just going to get a tea. Patrick's going to come pick me up. Because, I can't get home. They're taking the car. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, why? Like, what in the world? What in the world? And so I was praying because I was praying about this other decision, not even thinking about who knows I still don't know at the time of recording this podcast. The car is still in the shop and I don't know what's going on with that, what's going to entail. But I was on the precipice of making a financial decision, a decision around investing in something, and it was a substantial amount of money. So I had been sitting with it for a few days and really meditating on it and contemplating it, and with one of my close girlfriends, kind of discussing kind of the pros, cons, and really having both of us meditate on it and both of us tap it around it, as you do. And today, when I was standing there outside Starbucks with my tea, I just prayed. I was like, God, I'm so torn right now, and I feel like I'm in an emotional state where I'm not making the best decisions. And I don't know if any of you guys can relate to that. Maybe you can, when you're just in a space where you're frazzled and you have a lot of things going on, and you're like, from this state, I'm going to make an emotional decision. I'm going to make and a lot of emotional decisions are fear-based decisions, right? They're reactive decisions instead of, initiative decisions. And what I heard so clearly, which is why I wanted to hop on here and do this podcast, because I think it's worth talking about. And I'm sure a lot of you guys at different things in your life come to this precipice where you're like, okay, whether it's around money or time or whatever the crux is, right? It's, do I do this thing or do I not? Right? And you wonder to yourself, okay, well, where's my intuition guiding me? And here's the thing, if you're in your mental head with it, you're going to be able to come up with some good arguments for both sides. In fact, you may even have more arguments, likely have more arguments for the fear-based side. Because your ego, your fear-based mechanisms are there to protect you. And they're doing a good job of it, right? But what happens in allowing them to keep protecting you and allowing them to keep like piping up and being like, well, that's not realistic. Well, you shouldn't have to do this. Well, you shouldn't do that. Oh, well, that feels like a lot of money. Da, 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 da. Well, what if this happens, right? And all the like the crisis, worrying, and all the stuff that kind of twerks up when we're making a big decision like that. Our fear voice is the loudest. It's screaming. And oftentimes it is the voice of love or intuition or our most divine self that's actually this quiet whispering. And I know you guys have heard that before. It's like that quiet whisper that says, yeah, but what if you did it? But maybe it'll be great. But isn't there a reason why you want to do it? Or whatever, right? And so I make this prayer, and what I hear, I want to get a tattoo of it. I don't have any tattoos, but I want to get a tattoo of it. Was love rises, fear cowers. So simple. So simple. So true that every cell in my body tingled. Love rises to the challenge and expands to meet it. Fear cowers to the challenge and shrinks to avoid it. Let me say this again. Love rises to the challenge and expands to meet it. And fear cowers to the challenge and shrinks to avoid it. Wow. I mean, I didn't make that ish up, guys. That was a straight divine download. And when I hear it and as I say it, I could say it like 5 other times and 5 other ways, and maybe I will in this podcast. We'll see. But it really hit home that when we're in these moments of decision making, and we're wondering, should I go left? Should I go right? What should I do? And this is for big decisions. This is for tough decisions, But I want you to ask yourself, what would love do? Love would rise to the challenge. And so here's the difference. So here is also some guidance, right? Based on what you define that challenge to be. is going to impact that decision, right? And the truth is, you know what the challenge is. So for instance, the challenge for me today was, let's say, a new level of financial investment. That was the challenge. The challenge wasn't necessarily like, the uncomfortable conversation I would have to have if I chose not to, right? That would be uncomfortable, yeah, for sure, right? But the bigger challenge, like when I really got down to my truth, I was like, wow, this is really asking me to rise to a new level of financial abundance. This is asking me to truly own my abundance in a whole next level. Right? And so of course it's triggering me, right? Every time we're rising to a new level, I always tell my girls that work with me this. It's kind of like, if you imagine it like a video game, right? You're like going through the level, you're slaying all these like little guys, you're like collecting your coins, doing your thing, right? You get to the end, what happens at the end of the level, right before you get to the next level? Biggest devil, biggest monster, biggest dragon, whatever happens, right? So as in life. So oftentimes at the end, or we're just about to transcend to that next level, we get hit with this thing that shakes us, with this thing that makes us question ourselves. Oh, so are you really that confident? Are you really ready to say yes to that next level of relationship? Are you really ready to say yes to that next level of your career? Are you really ready to say yes to that next level of financial abundance? I mean, I sat in a room earlier this week with some other women, and a few of the women were at that place in their life where they had started their coaching business on the side, but they were still working their 9 to 5. And I could hear as they were sharing their experiences and they were asking for advice on making that leap and feeling better about making that leap and all that stuff, right? It became so clear, right? Because I'm already on the other side. I've already surpassed that level years ago, right? And from hindsight, I was just like, girl, you gotta jump. You gotta jump and let your wings catch you, right? And that was obviously also qualified based on the specifics about what I knew about their situations and their business and whatnot, right? I'm not saying if you have like a business idea, you should quit your job tomorrow if you haven't done any groundwork to do it. So disclaimer there. But oftentimes when we look at that, right, like, I mean, even in my relationship, I moved from Santa Monica to Orange County to be with my now fiance, right? At the time, did I have a feeling he was going to be my husband? Absolutely, of course I did. But I did not have proof yet. I did not know for sure yet. There was no guarantee that we were going to get engaged when I did that. I did that because I knew I was rising to a new level of relationship, right? And intuitively, I felt like, yes, this was, it was aligned with what my bigger goal was what my bigger truth was, right? And so in that moment, it didn't make it uncomfortable. It didn't make that an easy decision. I love living in Santa Monica. I had a great place in Santa Monica, right? I had a great life in Santa Monica. So I wasn't running from something that was bad. It wasn't like bad versus new potential, right? It was, no, okay, it was choosing my biggest up leveling yet in relationship. Am I willing to open myself up, to expand, and to rise to this new level of partnership that I've never experienced before, and do this thing that makes me so uncomfortable, move outside of my little happy little sector, right? And of course, I did it. I knew I had to do it. I was very clear in the divine guidance, right? And it was also very clear to me that if I had ended the relationship because I was unwilling to move, that would have been a fear-based move. That would have been a move that was blocking the love and blocking the expansion that I knew was available to me in that opportunity, in that moment, right? And so many times we're at this precipice. We're at this precipice of a decision, and sometimes it is a bigger decision, like maybe moving. And sometimes it's a smaller decision. Maybe it's a smaller decision of saying no to that job offer that you keep on getting that's actually distracting you from the thing you really want to be doing. Maybe it's saying no to that friend that always kind of, is negative and brings you down and tries to get you to play smaller. Whatever it is, right? You know, right now, and I say this in all of my moon meditations, um, is that the beautiful thing is that life, the universe, God, source, your soul, whatever you want to call it, serves up on a platter for you the exact thing that you need to be working through right now. Right? So that thing right now that's uncomfortable in your life, that thing right now that's feeling a little, it's frustrating, let's say, that's what you're here to expand on. That's what you're here to bust through. And oftentimes, if you haven't bust through it yet and you've been trying to bust through it for a while, it's a good idea to look back and say, okay, well, what did I do? What have I done in other times? And what you'll notice, and what I noticed today when I was thinking about this, I was like, oh, okay. I've actually had other opportunities like this in the past to make this decision, but in the past, I have cowered in fear and called it being conservative, right? I have cowered in fear and called it being, what do you call, sensical or whatever, right? Instead of saying, oh, I see what this is, I see you. This is my last dragon at the end of this level. And I'm ready to slay it because I'm ready for the next. One of the things that I see every single time I launch a program or I do an enrollment for something, I always get at least a handful of people that will email me saying like how much they would love to do it, but that it's just too expensive for them right now because they just did this or they have to buy that or whatever it is, right? So fill in the blank of financial excuse, right? And my heart goes out to them, obviously, because I've been in those situations in the past. I've been in tight money situations, and I know how hard it is to get out of your fear mind, especially with money, right? When we're in our fear mind about money, it's like, it's like the driving wheel has been stolen from us and we're like driving into a ditch, right? Because we can't take action on anything in our lives because we are so concerned about our own security that we have no space to rise, no space to expand, right? And it breaks my heart because I've been in that chokehold and I know how much it hurt too. But using that as an example, because I've been in there too. Let me just talk about my own experience, right? So I remember my first coach ever. I was 27. And I met this woman and I just like, I resonated with her. I would read all of her Instagram posts. And I was just like, oh my God. I remember like consuming all of her free content and being like, it would be so amazing to like get to talk to her about like the stuff that's coming up for me and see what she has to say. And so I finally got the balls to email her and say I wanted to meet up for a consultation and see if we'd be a good fit for one-on-one coaching. She had none of her prices online or whatever. So I had no idea what she was going to cost. I knew pretty much whatever it was probably going to be out of my budget, but I wanted to see what it was to see if there was any way possible I could make it work. And we have our consult. I'm like, oh my God, this is great. And she tells me how much she is, and she's $1,000. $1,000 a month for 6 months minimum. And so this was me when I first started my business. I did not have a 9-to-5 job. I was working some odd jobs and just started my business, had a couple of clients who were not paying me anywhere close to $1,000 a month at the time, right? And I remember after it being like, okay, I really want to work with you and I don't know how I'm going to manage another $1,000 right now. But I'm going to go home and try to figure something out and I will get back to you. And I will say that that was, I think, one of the core fundamental decisions that helped me get out of that first rut of entrepreneurship, because I chose in that moment to rise. I knew my soul was niggling, I was tingling. I was like, this. I mean, she was a spiritual mentor. She was not a business mentor or anything like that. But I knew even then, I feel like I was born to do what I do now. Because I always knew that it was an inside game. I always knew that like all the external success was all based on internal. So I've always been, contrary to a lot of people, I've been a way bigger investor in spiritual coaches than I ever have in any business coaches or anything like that. And that was fundamental to me because it shifted my mindset. It shifted the way I looked at the world and allowed me to do what I do today. But anyway, going back to that situation where, again, it was a super, super tough decision. In fact, I literally had like a whole choir of fear being like, you're crazy, you can't do this. It's impossible. I was not even making $1,000. I was not making $1,000 extra like in any shape or form. I literally did not have the thing. And I remember in that moment, I was like, I asked myself, okay, but what would I have to do? Who would I have to rise to be able to do this? Right? Who would I have to rise to be able to do this? And I was like, I sat with myself and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to take more shifts at the restaurant. And I'm going to have to really, get my act together and start getting more health coaching clients. And I'm going to have to not, I'm going to have to not go out as much and try to save any money I have from, eating out or takeout or stuff like that. I'm going to have to cook at home. And I got really clear and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this because I want to be the woman that I'm going to become on the other side of this mountain, because it looks like a mountain right now. And when I look back on that instance changed the whole flippin' game for me. And you know what? I was able to pay her. It was tight. The first couple months got less tight as we went on. But sure enough, I rose to the occasion and my life met me there. And not only did it meet me there, but I became a different kind of person. I not only became, from a more like loving abundance mindset because I was working with an amazing spiritual teacher through that, but more so, honestly, I think more so than even the mentorship, what actually shifted was I became the kind of woman that didn't let money stop me from the things I knew I needed in my life. I became the kind of woman that did not cower to fear. And then I've looked back on my life, and as I've worked and I've heard and I've talked to so many budding coaches and so many entrepreneurs that have come into my sphere along the way, I can tell based on someone's mindset, based on how someone rises to a decision or cowers from a decision, how successful they're going to be. And I don't say that in like a negative way, but I say that because I'm letting you know that even today, 2020, Cassandra, 8 years after she made that call, had to remind herself of that. Because you know what? I'm not playing in those numbers anymore. But there's, new level, next challenge, right? And what's being demanded of me now may be slightly different in details, but is the same energetically. And so when I was reminded of that today, I just felt so strongly compelled to share that with you guys on this podcast, because when I think of the things in my life that have been hard decisions, let's say, that have been decisions that I have been nervous or scared about, right? When I've asked myself, the times that I rose, The times when I chose love, the times when I chose miracles, when I chose that infinite possibility and said, I am going to step up as the woman that steps up for this. That's when my world changed. That's when miraculous forces came to my aid. That's when I turned up to a different level of me and who I was. And in every moment, like I said, whether it's the same thing with your health, right? It's rising to that new challenge. Say if something's going on with your health, I think a lot of people, just to like give a whole, smorgasbord of different ways this could go. I feel like I've given you a couple different examples now, with my health, right? In that moment when I thought, okay, it's all these food allergies, I was going to have to do a complete overhaul of my diet, right? You think that was fun? You think that was like, first of all, was not cheap, but it was also, it was time consuming. It was dealing with a lot of people, a lot of pushback. People, oh my God, in college, people were so mean. They would be like, do you think you're an alien? Is that why you're eating vegan? Or like, what, you can't eat anything at the dining? It was not easy, right? But in that moment, I rose to that challenge, right? I decided I was going to expand myself to the situation instead of shrink from it, right? Instead of play small. And so I guess I put this out there, and I hope that this becomes a resource for you whenever tough, challenging decisions come up. If you feel yourself in a headlock, so to speak, and fear is just reading you the riot list and wanting you to stay safe and wanting you to stay small and wanting you to not expand, I want you to ask yourself a couple questions. The first question I want you to ask yourself is this a pattern? Is this a pattern for me that, if something's come up and I have shrunk, right? If is it a pattern that I'm always seeing these things that I just feel like would be so good for me, but then I count myself out because of time or energy or money or whatever it is, or the commitment, right? It would take. Is it a pattern that as soon as things get uncomfortable, I run back to my safety zone, right? And I think sometimes when I notice the patterns that I have, then I know what I have to do. Because if I feel like I'm stuck in a rut, if I feel like I'm in that space where I need to rise to that next level, and I look back and say, okay, well, where are my wheels spinning, right? Where am I caught in the same pattern over and over again? Then I can say, okay, now I know what I need to do to break it. Because of the past 3 times a situation in this ballpark came up and I thought the commitment was too much, or I thought it was too uncomfortable to have that conversation, or I thought, that would put me outside my comfort zone to do this, or I don't feel comfortable with that, or whatever. If I've done this a few times, especially already, then and I don't like where I'm at right now, and I'm still frustrated with where I'm at right now in that arena of my life, then it might be a good situation to try something different. And chances are, in the past, you have cowered in fear. Because that is the default setting of the world. That is the default setting that so many of us have. And this is not to make you wrong. Lord knows how many times I've cowered in fear, right? But it's to make you aware right now, if you found this podcast, it was for a reason. If you're listening to this right now because you're trying to make a tough decision around something, it's for a reason. Do not let fear have you play small. Have you cower. Have you hide from the mountain. Because you can never get to the summit hiding at the bottom. And now, when you're being faced with this, you are being offered an opportunity for expansion. You are being offered an opportunity to choose love in a situation you have not been choosing love in the past, right? To choose abundance in a situation you have not been choosing abundance. To choose a new story in a situation where you have been letting an old story keep you small and stuck and a prisoner. You have an opportunity right now with this challenge. And you can choose differently in this moment. And I hope that you trust that if you're hearing this right now, this is for you. And you have the ability to rise to the occasion. You have the ability to spread your wings and get to see who you get to be at the end of this climb to the top of the mountain, right? Who you get to be when you decide to expand to meet this challenge and show up in full force in your most divine self, right? That's where miracles happen. That's where magic happens. That's where your life shifts dramatically. So I hope this was helpful. And for those of you that are considering my Miracle Mastermind, we kick it off February 1st. This is the last week or so of enrollments. We have a few spots left. Definitely check out the link below if that sounds good to you. It is literally a 365-day intensive training in shifting yourself out of a thought system based on fear, scarcity, lack, worry, stress, anxiety, into a consciousness based on love and abundance and infinite potential. And it's something that, if you've heard in previous episodes, has absolutely transformed my life. And if you've tried to do A Course in Miracles before, you know it's a pretty thick text to get through on your own. It takes a lot of discipline to make it through all the full year of the workbook. And I'm creating this Miracle Mastermind so that I can guide you through it, so that I can give you those weekly talks on the text and demystifying it, making it applicable to your life, so that you'll be getting daily voice memos from me about the lessons, and you'll have a WhatsApp group where you can share your miracles and share what's coming up for you, and truly have a transformative 2020. I am super excited for this mastermind. So if that sounds good to you, if you've been getting that little wink, wink, nudge, nudge, that this is the year that you really start flexing your muscles and shifting from fear to love, I hope you'll check it out, the link below, and sign up and join us. It's going to be incredible. I can't wait. And if you thought this podcast was helpful, if you're loving the content I'm giving, please, please, please leave a 5-star review below. Let me know what specifically you love about the podcast, or share it on your Instagram. I love hearing from you. I love knowing that you're listening to this, and I hope that this truly served you and helps you rise to your most expansive self for the next tough decision you have.